will make us start. And I have to say, I've been really looking forward to this session, which is our last session of the day, and we're going to have a bit of fun. So we're going to learn about how to use flirting in the business world, which is going to be quite interesting. I'm really, really pleased to be joined by Elizabeth Clarke. She is a CEO and founder of Dream Agility. She's an international speaker. And as I said to you yesterday, I've watched your TED Talk. It was awesome and definitely worth a watch for anybody else that hasn't seen it. She's a best-selling author. She's a retired flirting expert. I'm not sure how retired you are. And you are also a tech champion. So thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, let's talk about this book, Flirting for Dummies. What came about writing the book?
What came about, it was one of those things where I'd actually written a CD many years ago, before Audible and things like that. Because I'm dyslexic, I thought it would be really great to put this in a CD so people could actually listen to it. And that was a thing called Flirt Guru. And we published that, sold tons. And then off the back of that, I got contacted by Hodder, who I'd never heard of at the time. My dad was very cross. He said, Elizabeth, they are the biggest publishers in the UK. And they asked me to write a book for them called Single Settled, which I spent months haggling over the contract. And then when the contract was signed, they said, right, publishing date's in 6 weeks' time. You've got 6 weeks to write the book. I'm like, oh my God. So I did that, and my family didn't speak to me because it was horrible. I had to get up the crack of dawn, and right before the kids got up, I still had my diary that I was fulfilling, and then I had to write at night when the kids had gone to bed. I went blind, I started wearing glasses, and I promised I would never, ever, ever write another book. And then Wiley got in touch and said, would you write Flirting for Dummies? And I thought, oh, Wiley, another big publisher, I'd be stupid not to. And I said, actually, no, I promised my kids I wouldn't write another book. It's really hard work. And they said, honestly, it's like painting by numbers, because they're all formatted the same way. They've all got 5 parts in them, and each 5 part has 5 parts, and the 5 parts are made of 3 parts and 2 parts. So it's big, like a big tree diagram. So you fill it all in, you send it off to them, they send you this book, which I kid you not is about 189 pages long, that you have to read to learn the author voice. And then you write a chapter, and then you haggle over the contract for months again, and you end up with 6 weeks to write it. So that's how it came. It's not that I had any burning ambition to write a book. It's just that when someone is paying you, it'd be silly not to. And it's been out in all sorts of different languages as well. So it's been a lot of fun. It's funny when you see people at airports with it. That's really weird.
And it's still in all those bookshops now and available to buy, is it not?
It is. I get my royalties twice a year. It's very nice. Thank you very much. Please grant that. In fact, I have a copy here. Actually, this is an old one, but you see these covers? They had a peacock on there. And I said, I can't have a peacock on the front of my book. And they go, oh, well, it means da-da-da-da-da-da. I said, nonsense. Get me some people on there. So give me upside down people. But now there's people with faces on, because obviously as people, we're all drawn to faces, not people lying upside down or peacocks.
So normally when we think about flirting, we think about it in the environment where we're looking for a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, all of those sorts of things. How can it be used in the business world?
Well, it really doesn't matter whether you're trying to network with someone, you're trying to sell something to someone, you're presenting to someone, or you're seducing someone. You use exactly the same skills to a greater or lesser degree.
Interesting. And what about then in the virtual world? We're all working here in this screen environment. How do we use flirting then to, do the business deal?
Well, it's funny because actually most of the body language you use when you're flirting, 40% of it is facial language. And if you think about it, Zoom is very much concentrated on the face. So people can see exactly what's going on. I've been caught out on Zoom before where somebody said something and you're trying to stop yourself reacting to it, trying to grin through it. So, because it's all going on in the face, you use exactly the same things you would do if you were in a face-to-face situation. So you want lots of eye contact. The funny thing about Zoom is, at the moment, we're kind of looking at each other's screens sort of downways. But actually, if you're presenting, you should look at the little green dot on your camera, because that will give you eye contact. That will make the person on the other end feel like you're looking right at them. So if you're making, there's a guy at Google I know that can do this, and he can do it for hours on end. I don't know how he does it. He must cover up the screen, because you're naturally drawn to faces. So it's very hard to speak to the camera, because I am drawn back to your eye contact, because that's what we do as human beings. It's all about the eye contact and looking for those micro clues. So if you're presenting, look at the little green dot. If you're not presenting, it's difficult to maintain. You end up just kind of looking at the middle of the screen. But it is important to look. Don't be one of these people when you're talking, your head's up in the air and you're wandering around, or you're sitting playing on your phone. If you want to play on your phone, what you've got to do is put it on a tiny stand right next to your computer, so that when a text pops in, you can slip your hand up where no one can see it. Just press there, sneaky look to the left. You've checked your mails out, job's a good one. So it's a polite way to sort of continue life as usual, but without sort of being really rude and doing up in front of people.
Interesting. You talk a lot about eye contacts. What about when we're hopefully back in the physical room with people? How do we use eye contacts to engage them?
It's really important. It's the first bit of body language you're going to use when you meet people. So when you walk into a room of people, you don't just walk up to someone and start talking to them, because that would be really weird. You should never approach a woman from behind, and never approach a man from directly in front. If you just march up to a bloke, you're going to freak him out. So before you do any, and that's in any scenario, it doesn't matter if you're out on the pull or you're networking in a room, or always approach them slightly from the side, never directly in front, because it's a bit kind of intimidating and in your face. You've got to catch their eye first. So you can catch somebody's eye from anywhere in the room. It doesn't matter where you are. The trick is to stand in the right part of the room. So you want to stand somewhere where you can see people coming in the door. So if you're looking out for someone in particular, stand where you can see people coming through the door. Or if you're speaking to someone, stand so you can see just past them, but don't look over their shoulder, because that's really rude. Men do that all the time. Don't they have any idea how rude it is? So try and do it discreetly. But if you're facing the door, you can see people coming in, you can sort of look around somebody very quickly, give a quick eyebrow flash, they'll eyebrow flash you back. You didn't eyebrow flash there. That's it, but not quite as eyebrow flash is a non-sexual gesture that's used all over the world except Japan, where it has sexual connotations, so no eyebrow flashing in Japan. And it's something that people will instinctively just do back. It'll be interesting once we're back in the physical world. Makes me sound like I'm on some hippie trip. We're back in the physical world to see if people are still using those cues as much as before. I'm at an event with actual people next week, and I'm checking out to see whether it's still there or whether people are nervous, because obviously one of the big things when you meet people is physical contact, and we're all told now that we're not supposed to be doing physical contact. So you have that awful kind of awkward, are we handshaking, are we kissing, are we, let's just hug. So there's that to it as well, and men have always been really terrified of the whole physical contact thing. They just don't know what to do or where to put themselves. In fact, I was speaking on a cruise many years ago, and mine was the most requested session because everybody wanted to know about kissing in business and handshakes in business, and it was the kissing that freaked the blokes out the most.
Interesting, because I always find it's the men that go in for the kiss first in business. Maybe that's just the industry that we work in. Maybe they're just a little bit more flirty.
Maybe you're just completely irresistible.
Oh, maybe.
I think there's also this north-south divide with physical contact, because if you're in the north, you're much less likely to kiss and hug. If you're in the south, you're much more likely to kiss and hug. Like you say, your sector depends, whether you're more likely to kiss and hug or not. But this chap said to me, what happens if I normally kiss in the south, but I don't kiss in the north, and somebody I kiss in the south comes to the north? Do I kiss them or not? I'm like, you're really overthinking this.
Absolutely. What I should have said at the start is, everybody in the session today, this is an interactive session. It's informal. So if you have any questions, pop them in the side there, and I will do my best to ask Elizabeth for her advice. So what I would like to know is, how can you tell when somebody's really interested in what you're actually saying?
You need to look for a rule of 4, really. So you're looking for 4 things that show you they are more interested. One thing doesn't count as a sign. You're looking for clusters of things. So if somebody is gazing at you more intently, they're making better eye contact. If they proximity again, if they're sort of moving in towards you to close the gap because they're listening very intently. Physical contact again, lots of time when people are speaking, you'll get that arm on your arm. All physical contact should be above waist height and away from breasts. And then that's quite safe. And that's sort of leaning in as well when you talk. So getting closer, leaning in, more eye contact, obviously smiling. It depends if it's a very serious business thing. If it's serious, you won't get the smile, but you'll still get all those other signs. So if you look out for that, you get a real feel for whether somebody is into you or not. You see it on Zoom calls. You see these people that sort of sit back on their chair like this, and you think, God, I've lost them. You know, they're just not interested, or you know, they've just got terrible body language and they just aren't aware of everybody else. So you know, be careful of the whole sitting back on a Zoom call and looking at the air and patting your dog and all that sort of stuff, because it just shows disinterested. We're putting distance between ourselves and the person on the other side of the screen. The position of your camera is important as well. There's one chief exec I speak to, and he has his camera down here, and it's honestly, it's like having sex with him. He's coming in and out of it, and he's speaking to you. And like, oh my God, stop this at all. So it's be careful about the position of your camera. Something else that women do, and you haven't done it once actually, and I'm very conscious of it, fiddling with hair. Now, one of the signs when you're actually flirting with someone is a neck display. Women have a tendency to they're getting a bit heated, they move the hair away from their neck. You do find women with long hair on Zoom calls fiddle all the time, which kind of gives off the wrong signal. But it's because we're bored. We're looking at our hair going, oh my God, it's getting crazier and crazier. How can I calm it down? And every time you touch it, it gets bigger. I was on a call the other day and I wet it before I went on to try and make it look a bit more professional. And literally in front of my eyes, it dried. And I went like Krusty the Clown. And I went, oh my God, what do I do now? What do I do now? I can't get a hairbrush out in a call. So, playing with hair in the real world is a good sign. It means that somebody's interested in you. They're drawing attention to their face. They're doing a neck display, which is showing the most vulnerable part of the body. All good signs. On a Zoom, it doesn't mean that at all.
They're just bored.
It's just bored.
They're just bored.
Mad hair.
What about the art of listening? I've done sales courses where they kind of teach you that you should be listening more than you're actually saying. How do you get over that? How do you get the balance right?
Well, if you're listening, you've got to look interested. So even if you're listening and you're making a shopping list, again, you're back to the eye contact. The person who's speaking will make less eye contact. When people speak, they tend to sort of look away a little bit more. If you're listening, you've got to keep an eye on what they're doing, and you're looking for little micro clues in cues in their expressions as to what's going on. I mean, if you've ever been in a nightclub with a friend and they're chatting away to you and you can't hear a word they're saying, but you don't want to be rude and keep saying what every 5 minutes, you just follow their facial expressions. So if they go ha, you go if they laugh, you laugh. And you could do pretty much the same thing in business meetings. If you just ape them, if you just follow what's going on, even if you don't quite understand it, although it is very important if you don't understand something to ask. But by mirroring their body language, it sort of builds rapport without any kind of awkwardness. So you don't feel the need, especially if somebody's cleverer than you or they're speaking about something you don't understand. You can use a pensive face, not quite as pensive as that, but you know what I mean. So there's lots of cues you can give someone that show that you're listening and that you're interested in what you're saying. And particularly men love talking about themselves, and they love it when a woman hangs on their every word. And it's nice and easy. You just nod at everything they say and smile a lot. And I love that. And so in a business situation, it's great because you have to do very little work at all. And then just throw the odd compliment every now and then. That's really interesting. That's fascinating. I've never heard that before. All that sort of stuff. Not actually any conversation at all, but it fills the gap, particularly when you're networking, things like that, or you've listened to a presentation that's gone on for a long time, and it lets that person feel like they've been valued and listened to.
Interesting. Let's move on. Now, we haven't all managed to be in the same room together for a long time, and we've been in the virtual world. And even when I'm sat at my desk here, I squirt myself with perfume. Can we talk about smell?
Yes. Let's talk about smell. We've all been living on our own for a long time. Most of us have been doing Zooms in our pajamas and just put a top on, you know, from the waist up. Don't bother with things like deodorant or toothpaste, but we're going to be going back out now. One of the things you can do, one of the things I used to really hate when I was networking is at the end of a day, you're going networking, and people's breath, honestly, you know, it smells of fags and coffee and just general a lived in mouth. And that is really horrible. And the people who smell that most are young women. And the people who smell it least are older men. So older men are the problem because they can't smell it and they don't know it's a problem. I had a situation once at work where the girls in the office were complaining about the smell of this man, and it was escalated to a director who was in his 60s. And he said, I've smelt him. He smells absolutely fine. I had to say, to be fair, you know, your olfactory senses are not the same as a young lady's, and he smells like a donkey to them. So you have to be mindful of other people. Now, one of the things you can do is you can lick the inside of your wrist. There they are. And you wave it around a bit. And when it dries, you can smell what your breath smells like. Obviously, no good if you're an old bloke and you've got no sense of smell left. But it gives you an idea of, is it minging? Is it coleslaw? Is it nice and fresh and minty? So I do recommend carrying mints or a breath freshener so you can get rid of that smell. Also, you have to think about your smell. You know, we haven't been out testing our smell. You know, what are you going to wear? Is it a daytime thing you're going to? Is it a nighttime thing you're going to? Again, is it with older people or younger people? Because the smell really matters. With older people, you have to use things with heavier notes in it. Much deeper, bigger smells. With younger people, you need lighter smells. So you should have a smell depending on your audience. Depending on who you're going to be hanging out with, so that they feel comfortable with the smell. It smells the only thing that's processed directly by the brain. So when you smell coffee or cut grass or anything like that, it has that instant kind of, ooh. So if you smell a nice smell, it gives you that instant, ooh. So, you know, do think about what you're wearing. Maybe treat yourself to something new. It's very difficult buying perfume at the moment because you can't try anything on anywhere, can you?
No.
God knows what's happened to lipstick sales.
Well, well, some good advice there on smell, definitely. I find you get a certain type of person when they're in the room, they just stand out, they're noticed. How do you make that happen?
It happens for good reasons and bad reasons. So if you find that disabled people or people with kind of disability, they'll stand out because their body language is different to yours. And people who stand out in a room, their body language is different to everybody else's as well. You'll find that they maybe don't move as much, that their posture is incredible. So it makes them, we're designed to look for things that are different. The things that are the same just sort of get cancelled out. If something's different, you'll spot it. So if you really want to stand out, again, your position in the room is really important. Stand where you can be seen. Don't stand with your back to the door because no one's going to see you. Don't stand right against the wall unless you don't want to speak to anybody. Stand where people can approach you and where you can be mingle and where you can be seen. And do have that really good posture, because that will make you stand out from everyone else. You know, slouching is terrible, but shoulders back, teeth and tits. Imagine you've got a big long piece of string pulling you up, as our ballet teacher used to tell us years ago, and it will give you that standout posture.
Interesting. You talked a little bit there about body language. Are there any other techniques that you can share with everybody?
There's lots. It all depends. But if you're a bloke, it's very unnatural for a man to stand with his feet together like this. So you walk into a room, you'll never see a man with this. I think it's because they have testicles and things. But so men will generally be stood with their legs further apart. If they're really quite far apart, and this is sitting as well, actually, if they're sitting down and they've got, it's called a crotch display, and they've got their legs really wide apart, and this is basically their way of saying, smell me. So all those pheromones coming out from down there, and they're trying to dominate the room with their smell. Not literally, they're not sitting there going, it's just one of the things they do. Men who are very dominant, you'll find they take up a lot of space. So they'll sit with their legs apart, they put hands behind their head. Again, it's like, smell me, smell me, smell me. So there's all that sort of thing going on. Ladies tend to try and take up less space. If you see a lady sitting on a stool, you tend not to see women with their legs wide apart. They tend to keep their feet together, or they'll cross their feet. So you've got all these different, diametrically opposed to each other in order to sort of take up less space and be thinner and more petite and everything. Something I really struggle with. I have size 8 feet and I'm over 5'7", so it's I'm never going to be petite and little. I will be that woman sat on the stool with my legs apart. But yes, there's lots of things you can do with your body language. Be careful with your hands. I wave my hands a lot. I can't tell you how many drinks I've thrown over people, especially now. We're going to have to be very careful of spatial distances between people. I don't know how much that will have changed since everyone's been away. I know in London, you can stand very, very, you can stand on a platform on your own. Somebody will come and stand right next to you. It's just the oddest thing. But, we're so used to being on our own and having that much space. Are we going to be looking for that again when we're out and about? It's one thing when you're with your friends, but when we're with a bunch of strangers, it's going to be 3,000 people at this exhibition next week. And I'm just wondering, what's it going to be like? Because they've already said, try and keep people away from the stands, try and keep people away from this, try and keep people away from that. And I do wonder how comfortable people are going to be sort of around each other and touching each other.
Interesting, that will be, definitely. Obviously, once you've got somebody's attention, what's the first thing you say? What are those opening lines that you say to people to get the conversation going, rather than hi?
You don't say anything until you've made eye contact, you've had an eyebrow flash, you've given them a little smile, and you've had a little smile back. Then you can say anything to them. So once you've done all those things, you can say whatever you want. I tend to keep it really simple. Just, would you mind if I join you? Or, do you come here often? Just something really, really simple that they don't have to think about, that is easy to respond to.
Interesting. So there are no set lines that we should use.
There's definitely not set lines. I get blokes all the time that sort of say, oh, I'm good at jokes. That's fantastic. And I tell women jokes and they like it. Now, women suffer from the need to please. So if you march up to some woman at a networking event and start telling her jokes, she will laugh out of politeness, because she suffers from the need to please. Now the man will think, oh, she thinks I'm funny, I'll tell her another joke. And then so you then get all these jokes after, and you're like, oh, please let the ground open up and swallow me, because I can't take any more of this. So do not launch at a woman you don't know with lots of jokes. It's just not going to happen. I used to, when I was going down to meetings in London, I used to read the Times from cover to cover when I went, because men like facts. They're very comfortable with facts. So if you talk about a football match that's happened, a cricket match that's happened, a deal that's gone off, something that's happened in Parliament, they like facts. They retain them really easily. Don't fox them with anything fluffy. So, what did you think of a certain film? No, it's too much for them. Just stick to facts and you'll find that they'll happily rattle back at you. And that's when you go into your, that's nice.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to get more into my football, I think, to get into those conversations. So, women are terrible at accepting compliments. Oh, you look nice today. How do you make that a successful compliment? And more importantly, how do you accept them gracefully?
Well, linguists have proven that the two most popular words in a compliment are you and nice. So I hate the word nice, but you and nice. So you look nice today really works as a compliment. That's a great suit you're wearing. That's just get the word you in there somewhere, and then they respond to it really, really, really simply. All you have to say is thank you. That's it. Thank you. You don't have a list of oh, thank you, but it's 10 years old. Thank you, it's not been dry cleaned in 2 years. Thank you, it's a bit small and I've got an elastic band holding my button on. Just thank you. That's all you have to do, because if you don't say thank you, you're going to embarrass the person that's just given you a compliment. And not only is he going to not compliment you again, he's going to be reluctant to compliment other people as well. And use your compliments for both genders. Don't just save it for the opposite sex. Give compliments to everybody. And if somebody accepts a compliment badly, tell them they have accepted the compliment badly and tell them how to accept one in future. So, and then we can all have a nice, lovely, fluffy world.
Lovely, I like that. Let's end on your top 5 tips.
Top 5 tips. Well, first of all, make sure your breath is squeaky clean and you're smelling for the environment you're working in. I've got this perfume. I've had it for years. Well, not the same one. I keep replacing it. It's called Narciso Rodriguez. And honestly, it's like sex in a bottle. And I guarantee if I wear it anywhere, there's a bloke going to come over and say, you smell fantastic. I don't know what's in it. There's some kind of musk or something that goes for them, but it gets them every time. So wear a scent that's appropriate to where you're going, and it makes you feel confident and gives you that uppity body language. When you're going out, be ready with your eye contact. Stand somewhere where you can be seen, so you can give those quick glances, eyebrow flashes. You can eyebrow flash everybody that walks in the room, eyebrow flashes. So eye contact, eyebrow flashes, then choose who you're going to smile at, just a little smile. It doesn't have to be a great big smile. Avoid closed lip smiles because you can't tell if they're smiling or not. Yeah, it's difficult to do actually. So give them a smile back if you're smiled at. Don't smile at people you don't want to speak to because it gives them all the wrong things. Be ready with your opener. So remember, never approach a woman from behind, never approach a man from directly in front. Approach your target, make sure you're in the eye line and they've recognized you, and then just say, mind if I join you? That's simple. They're going to say yes, they're not going to say no, unless of course I can't do it on Zoom, but there's different formations. If you've got two people and they're face to face like this, if their shoulders and their hips and their toes are all pointing at each other, those people are a really intense conversation or they're about to have sex with each other. So yes, those people, and you can always tell if somebody wants to not necessarily have sex with you, but if they're lusting after you, because you end up in this situation where with proximity is changing, you're getting closer and your hips are square on and your pelvis is square on, your knees and your toes are square on. When you're in this position, you could do anything to that person.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So get your body language in the right position and then just be ready to do whatever it is you're doing.
Excellent. Just quickly, one question. What's the best message to use for a LinkedIn connection? That's one that's come in.
Oh, well, it's tailor it. Don't have a generic one. So go to their profile, find something you have in common and comment on that. Oh, I see you went to Lancaster University. I lived there for 10 years. It would be great to connect. Something in common, not, oh, you come up in my network. It would be great to connect. Something that you've got going on with them so they feel obliged to accept your connection and then take your conversation on from there.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been so much fun. Thank you for joining us. And people can buy your book if they want to find out more, can't they?
Or buy my software if you advertise on Google.
So this is the last session for today, so it brings me to close the event. I want to thank all of our partners, in particular Intelligo and Pitch, for providing the platform. Everybody behind the scenes that's put this event together and given their free time. Everybody knows who they are, but everybody did this voluntarily, so thank you. And thanks to all of our speakers and all of our moderators, again, who have given their time free. The next Marketing Leaders Circle event is a members-only event, and it will be face-to-face on the 7th of October, so check the website out for more. And if you want to come along to that and you've enjoyed what you've seen today, I honestly believe in Marketing Leaders Circle, and membership is really, really quite cost-effective for what you get in return. So I really look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you and goodbye.